Welcome to the I Create Daily podcast. I'm LeAura Alderson.
And I'm Devani Alderson. We're your co-hosts on this journey of creativity and productivity.
I Create Daily is for artists in every genre of creating, from musicians to writers, crafters to inventors, bloggers to entrepreneurs. I Create Daily is a movement for creators serious about your art.
If you're into creating anything, this podcast is definitely for you. Thank you so much for joining us on this journey. Hello and welcome to another coffee break episode on the I Create Daily podcast. The coffee break episodes are where we spend 15 to 20 minutes talking about people, ideas, or concepts that we've been discussing, thinking about, find interesting to share with you guys. And today's topic, we're going to be talking about choosing your thoughts.
Yes, and you're Devani. And I'm LeAura. And thanks for joining us for this coffee break session. So the topic for today is choose your thoughts, as you said. And how that came about is, well, actually several ways. We talk about that a lot in our family, but more recently, all the time. More recently, it came up when we have a new Alexa device. Whoops. So I just call it. So if any of you have an Alexa device, then you will know that if you call the name of the device, Alexa, which is what they've given it, you can change the name. If you happen to live in a home and somebody in your home is named Alexa, then you'll probably want to change the name that the device wakes up to. But at any rate, we have this device. We've been doing a little bit of market research as a result of it, which is one of the reasons we got it in the first place. And I've been just observing not only the device itself, but our habits and our patterns related to it. And it brought this concept to mind. So one of the things for me, I'm a very focused person and I tend to ignore the sidebars. I don't tune into media. I don't like to have the media or others dictate what I start thinking about first thing, especially first thing in the morning. Mm-hmm. So that's when it is that
what's on your mind all day long.
Exactly. So that's why I tune into podcasts in the morning to help me. Like if I have thoughts I'm working on, then I'll start writing them down right away. And then while I'm getting ready, I'll tune into podcasts that I know will help set me up for launching my day in a really productive, positive way. And so if I turn on the radio or the TV or tune into Alexa. Oops, I just said her name. Okay, so for instance.
I don't know that.
Okay.
She has a pleasant voice at least.
So Alexa is now saying, Alexa, tell me a pirate joke.
It's your time to shine, girl.
Yeah.
Alexa, tell me a pirate joke.
What's a pirate's favorite exercise? The plank.
That's a new slapper.
You like puns, so that would
okay.
Be, yeah, okay.
I love things like that.
But that's a joke. So like her feed line though, what I've noticed will have, when I see her, because the device has a female name, so we're just kind of calling it her. We've included her as part of the family, I guess you could say. But like right now it says, try her name, Open World Detective. So if I were to, because now I'm interacting with her, I'm starting the morning, she's there in the bathroom or in the office or wherever, and if I say, if I buy into that concept and say, Alexa, try Open World Detective.
Here's World Detective from the Games, Trivia and Accessories category.
Alexa, stop. Okay, so that gets me going down a path that I had not planned.
Yeah.
And it can lead to a black hole. And that's
I
the
didn't
thing.
catch that.
Sorry, I just muted it.
A waiter told me no one wanted to visit
Alexa,
the
stop.
homeland of Adriana Lima.
Alexa, home screen. Home screen.
Okay.
Sorry, guys.
Yeah, so
I didn't catch that. A
Alexa,
waiter told me,
home.
You have to first. Alexa,
I
stop.
didn't-
Alexa, home.
There is no active call.
Alexa, home. There we
All
go.
right, there we go.
Okay, so sorry about that. But that's part of the real world interaction with the device. She's still new and young and learning and not always as responsive as you would like her to be about things. But so the next thing is she might have a thing that says, tell me a pirate joke, ask me about the fires in California, or it might say what to think about. Like there was one that said, ask me what to think about. Ask me what's in the cloud. And so that's intriguing, right?
It's very interesting.
Very intriguing. It pulls you in because it's like, well, what should I be thinking about? Another one that's common is like, ask me 3 things you should know. And it's like, well, it makes you want to know, right? It's a really, really enticing. It's
very much
well marketed. If I do that, then I'm suddenly changing my state and giving it over to this device and whoever set up the device to advise me, like encourage me, entice me, whatever.
You've let Alexa choose your thoughts.
Exactly. For that period of time, I've let I've let Alexa, and then therefore Amazon, whoever's behind that, choose my thoughts. And the same thing happens if we jump in the car and turn on the radio.
Yes.
If we
turn on the TV.
Turn on the TV. Exactly.
A big one for us, because we almost never watch and use TV, but when we frequented the gym, we mostly work out at home now, but when we frequented a gym, they would be in control of all the TV channels, and there'd be like the news, there'd be the random soap opera, and then a news panel, and it was like that, and it was like right there in front of all the machines on big screens, dictating like, what you should know about.
Yeah, and you can't not see it. In that case, in that environment, you can't not see it. So it's very much the same thing. Like if you go to a website and you're reading content, and then we've all seen the clickbait, thumbnails of articles that you think are articles, but are actually just kind of spammy clickbait stuff that take you, like, what does this actor look like today kind of thing. Well, those of us who've been around for a while, especially, may want to know what the actor, from 50 years ago looks like today. But you know what? Then that takes you down a whole other avenue of pursuit that's way off track. It's the rabbit hole kind of thing from what it is we're supposed to be doing or wanting to do, by the end of the day, being able to say that we've gotten done. So really it's about the place to begin choosing your thoughts is there. It begins in the morning. So it begins with not turning, anytime you turn a knob, waiting to hear something, waiting to hear and see what the news is. In that moment, you have turned over your consciousness, essentially, and your thoughts and your brain power to someone else's agenda. Same thing with the inbox, right?
It gets back to the concept of the Napoleon Hill book of Think and Grow Rich. It's not just about, hey, just sit there and think and suddenly you'll be rich. But the point is that when you elevate your thoughts and you consciously choose to think about ways to help your life, ways to improve, things to do better, learning new skills, developing yourself, then you're just, like, it starts with what you think about every day, what you think about regularly, what's constantly on your mind. And if what's constantly cluttering your mind is news stories that you can't do anything about because they happened in the past. No, news rarely reports what's going to happen in the future, and when it does, it's rarely positive. And so when it does, it's always towards disaster because that's what gets everybody's attention.
And then, to be fair and balanced, and so to speak, so that right now that we're recording this, it's September 12th, 2018, and on the way toward us in North Carolina and the East Coast is Hurricane Florence. And so we want to tune in to the weather, and how wonderful a blessing it is to be able to have the technology that can warn us in the entire eastern seacoast, essentially, that there's an impending Category 4 hurricane that you need to know about and you need to be prepared for. So those kind of things, obviously, but again, you choose that. You hear that there's going to be a hurricane coming, then you can choose to tune in and be prepared. And
then when you're elevating the way you think on a regular basis, you're tuning in so you can prepare, not so that you can just be fearful of impending doom.
Exactly. Yeah, no, that's a really good point. And so as a part of having the device and seeing those feeds, so I don't normally tune into the news or the sidebars. I've kind of learned that lesson, and I don't get distracted by those things, but I noticed I was getting distracted and enticed by the Alexa device. And so then I thought, okay, this is just one example of so many. These distractions and demands to our attention are not going to get less. They're going to only increase.
And so another level of the matrix.
Another level of the matrix. So it really is incumbent upon us to decide where we want to spend our time, our mental time, our emotional time, and what we want to do with our brain energy, our bandwidth, essentially, because we only have so much. And so one of the ways I can start this is bridging to a slightly different topic, but just really quickly, in our community, some people say that they have a hard time deciding, of all the many things to do, how to decide what to do, how to prioritize their goals and that sort of thing. And one simple way for each day is to ask yourself, at the end of today, I will feel happy if I have done X, Y, and Z. I will feel accomplished if I have done this, A, B, C, and that kind of thing. So it's like, ask yourself, where do I want to be at the end of an hour? Where do I want to be at the end of by lunchtime, and then where do I want to be by 5 p.m. and then by 9 p.m. and so forth.
And we were just interviewing James Clear, which you'll hear about on our podcast eventually. I don't know where. It might be published, it might not be yet. But he was talking about, like, the time is going to pass anyway.
Yeah.
And he was saying, like, no, whatever you're doing, whatever you're thinking about, whatever you're stressing about, like, the time doesn't stop. So it can be hard to get into the mindset of think good thoughts, choose good thoughts when you have all the distractions from media, from Alexa, from friends telling you all this disaster stuff or whatever it is. But that time is going to pass anyway.
Right.
And so will you feel accomplished if you're being derailed?
Yes. And I don't remember, I don't know who originated this quote because I've heard it from several. And that is that your email inbox is just a filing cabinet for other people's agendas.
Yes.
And so it's the same thing with your email inbox. It's like if you start email the very first thing in the morning, if that's your habit and it works for you, great. But if you find that it's occupying the most valuable time, most productive time of your morning, just going through that email, then don't do that then. Instead, prioritize your work, creating what you want to create and what you want to do, and choosing what you think and what you're going to develop in your mind throughout the day. So an example of how I do this is I start my morning with I go through our article. I see if there are any last minute edits that I missed, like late the night before. And then
before anybody else reads it.
Yeah, hopefully before anyone else reads it. And then oftentimes I will also awake with ideas for new articles. And so I'll get those down on paper or in the document and get started so that I don't lose that ephemeral idea. And then I will choose a podcast as I'm getting ready in the morning, a podcast to listen to that I know is going to inform me or uplift or elevate me or teach me something new. So, then that's what I'm choosing to do with that time. And that gets my mind going in a very productive way for everything I want to do and need to get done in the day.
Yeah. I start with coffee and then I go to our creators Facebook group and put down my list of goals and accountability stuff. And it just gets you in the mindset. So sometimes people will say, well, Facebook is such a distraction. Social media, email, blah, blah, blah is a distraction. I go specifically to the group to post my list of things I got done, my gratitude, blah, 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 blah. That's a very intentional. It's not I'm going to Facebook to scroll Facebook. It's I have a bookmark link to our group specifically, so I don't even have to see the home screen of Facebook. I don't have to see other people's ideas flood mine and write down what I'm going to do, and that helps orient. We also have some VAs who chime in with what they're working on, and so we get that going, get the ball rolling. And for me, some of those things, they're like routines now, they're habits I've built or am building, and it's about racking up those short wins in the morning. Like, I got my to-do list, I know what I'm doing, I know what I'm focusing on today, and some days are better than others, but it's just, for me, it gets me in the mindset of this will be a productive day, and this is why. And so that's what helps for me.
And for your client work, you might just share what you did for your social media client work to keep you from being distracted with personal notifications.
So I don't always recommend this for everyone. It's not something necessarily that Facebook loves people doing. So I work with clients and I help them manage their social media, and which means I'm the first to admit that social media can be a huge, enormous distraction and time suck. But what I've done is I have a work profile that's totally, like, it's locked. Nobody could find it. It's not indexed on searches. It's just an account that I can get in. I can manage all the pages. I can post what needs to be posted. I can schedule things. I can check any VAs who have access to posting content to the pages. And I don't have to be distracted then with my the things that chime in on a personal basis, people responding in groups. Like, I can focus. And does it always work? There are times where, I decide I'm going to be distracted. It's really late in the afternoon, or I'm tired and I don't want to work. But it really does help separate the time spent doing focused, productive stuff that I need to do for clients, for our brands, whatever it is. And it just, it takes away from the constant need of distraction right there in front of my face, like that's ready. Because when you see those red dots on, like, you have 2 notifications or 25 notifications, whatever it is, that you want to click it.
Right.
And it's on your mind. It's on your mind until you click it.
Right. But speaking of that, you can turn off the notifications. Is it easy? Is it easy thing to do on Facebook, like to just turn them on and off? It's not. Is it? It's like you have to go through a whole.
So on your mobile, you can turn off all push notifications or just delete the app. I mean, either works in your whatever settings. It's different for every phone. Just get into your settings, figure that out. You can Google it. On the desktop, the thing with the desktop is you have to turn off notifications in a way, like post by post. So it's not easy at all. It's like in your face.
So it's better just to ignore them or just turn off the social media. Like a lot of times if I'm done with my contribution and commenting in our Facebook group, then I will just close Facebook altogether.
My favorite thing that you actually started doing before me is in your bookmarks, bookmark the exact link of where you need to be. So I have facebook.com/group/iCreateDaily, and when I click that link in my bookmark bar, I only go to the group. I don't have to then get distracted on the timeline at all. So.
Yeah, definitely. So you want to put those, your favorite places.
And it took forever for me to set it up because I hate setting things up. I really don't like setting things up, but once it's set up, it's like it saves so much time.
Absolutely. Yeah. So Devani, you came up with this quote that, let's see, so you want to go ahead and read it? I was going to read it, but since it's your quote, you want to read it?
Sure. So we were talking about this the other day, and what came to mind is when you start choosing your thoughts and when you start, priming your mindset about what you're going to think, setting up your day right, you're redefining the things you need to know, the things that are important, the things that matter in your life, the things that should impact you and shouldn't impact you. And so it's a training. Because news is enticing. That's the point. Media is enticing. Their entire career is based on creating content that entices us. And so when you start deciding what you will and won't tune into, you're redefining what you have to know or what you need to know for your life.
For the audio listeners, the noise in the background is Devani's dog Caspian.
Yes.
He's trying to play and get us, entice us into playing, actually, and it's not time yet for that. So, so Devani's quote is, we're redefining what it is we need to know. And we're making that choice rather than having it be something that happens to us, have it be something somebody else decides for us. Decide what it is that you need to know and make that conscious choice, what it is you want to focus on in particular. So in this, part of this reminds me of the concept, seeing the Alexa briefing, scrolling through and having all those enticing, what do you call those? It's clickbait in a way. Not just notifications, but tidbits that are
briefings,
captivating and make you curious to want to click. There were some books that when we were homeschooling the kids, there was a curriculum I'm sure it's still out there, and I thought at the time it was a really great curriculum, and it was and it is actually. I mean, there's some great books. They have some good content. The title of the series is something like "What Every Fourth Grader Should Know," "What Every Fifth Grader Should Know," and so forth. And then I started thinking about that relative to, why is it that, who decided that? Who decided what we should know on the media in the news today? Who decided what every fifth grader should know? And do I agree with that? That's one of the things with homeschooling / half schooling, unschooling, is you begin to ask yourself, just like we were teaching you guys all your life, basically, is to figure out, does that make sense? What does that really mean, and does it make sense? So why is it that this is what every fourth grader should know? Well, there's some underlying logic to that that's good, and that is that, in order to function as an intelligent, educated society,
there are some things you should be aware of.
there are some things in common that we should all be able to discuss and communicate about, so that we have a common ground for relating, in a civil fashion. So there's definitely something to that. It's a good series. It's great if you're homeschooling, but don't just take only that is the thing.
Yeah.
Just like the news, it's not to discount it altogether, because it's not all bad. It's not all, but it is to decide when it is that you choose to digest or consume that content. I've got a dog chewing on my hand.
I guess he's telling us that what he wants us to think about is him playing.
Right.
One thing that I always struck me funny the older I got was the reading levels. Like, are you an 8th grade reader, or are you, like when you're going through school, it's like, what level is your reading compared to what grade you are?
Yeah.
And I always found that interesting. I mean, I know there are some books that aren't necessarily age appropriate, and they're genred that way so that, this is an adult book. It's not for, an 8th grader maybe to read.
Right.
But I do think it is interesting how in school it was always presented as, this is the level you should be reading at. And
Yes.
I'm like, okay, but some of these other books are actually fascinating and interesting and intriguing, and they really make me think, and they're interesting, and why should I be limited to just what somebody decided an 8th grader vocabulary should be, you know?
Yeah.
Like, why does anybody need to prescribe to how quickly or slowly they should learn stuff?
Right, especially in this day and age.
I mean, I understand the concept was originally about they needed to filter out a way to present information in a right way. But it gets back to every time somebody else is in control of the right way to filter information, you're choosing somebody else to do it.
Yes, definitely. So one of the things that in like virtually every realm of existence today, there is an infant, toddler, child, teen, an adult, and an elder phase. So in other words, right now with voice-activated devices like this device here.
I muted her.
I muted her. Okay,
yeah.
so Alexa device.
You can mute her.
Yeah,
so.
she's not that intuitive yet, and she's at a very kind of juvenile stage. Because it's novel and a novelty, then it's more intriguing, more captivating, and more likely to be used. Just like email used to be. You remember the days when
email,
when it's like you got mail, it was like an exciting thing, and now it's like, I gotta throw all these emails.
You were even excited about spam email. You didn't care. It was like you hear the ding, and you're like, oh my god.
Yeah,
yes.
and basically spam hardly even existed then, just because the marketers hadn't gotten a hold of it. Or same thing. So back before that, it used to be like you've got something in your actual snail mail box, and then the snail mail box turned to junk mail, and now it's like literally, I mean, at one point I went through 1 year where I was like, I can unsubscribe to everything that came into that snail mail box so that we wouldn't be putting tons of paper into the landfill pretty much each week just in junk mail that went straight into the recycling bin.
Wasteful.
Or that time trash can, even before recycling bin. And I did that. I spent a tremendous amount of time, and basically it made barely a dent because either they did not listen to the unsubscribe, or it got renewed because I got on somebody else's list that sold it to them. And in a way, it's the same thing with email. I go through and I unsubscribe to the spam mail that comes in, and that helps for a little while, and it just comes back in. I still do it because it just feels like I can do some cleaning out that way. But part of the point is that for everything that first it's novel, and we're kind of intrigued for it, by it. We're drawn to it. We go here and there and see the next new thing until it's not anymore.
Right.
And so while it's new, though, then we can get caught up in it. And so part of what this conversation is about, relative to choosing your thoughts, it's also like choosing your diversions. Even it's like, okay, we're not saying don't have any diversions, but choose whatever you're doing, choose consciously. Make it a conscious decision that if you're going to tune into the news, that first you've primed and prepped yourself that I'm going to do it for this length of time, or I've tuned into already what I need to be tuning into. Because here's the thing, once you start tuning into podcasts and audiobooks and the kinds of things that stimulate your creativity, stimulate your own thoughts and mind in a positive way, all the other stuff is just noise. And it just becomes chatter and that you don't want to engage in.
And it weighs on you. it actually feels like weight on you, because you have all this information that you really don't know what to do with it. You know, it's like a cluttered inbox, a cluttered closet. It's like, it's in your head, but there's nothing you can do. There's nothing constructive you do with it.
Right. And the conversations like you managing social media accounts for others, especially, we don't have very much of the spammy kind of or argumentative kind of conversations, fortunately, on the I Create Daily page or group, but you do manage some pages and groups that have that. And there's just a tremendous amount of downtime spent handling those conversations with people who spend vast amount of time arguing on social media, right?
Or talking about how little time they have.
Yeah.
For hours.
Yeah.
On social media.
So really, it's really just about how I think our journey and in humanity as humans, growing and developing our consciousness now is a lot about conscious choosing, becoming aware, increasingly aware of why we do what we do, and whether that really makes sense, and whether it contributes to our goals, our ultimate goals and life, or whether it detracts.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and once we begin to make that discernment, those discriminating decisions throughout each day, it gets increasingly easier to do it throughout each week and throughout, you know, and it also helps with our goals, because back to goal setting, that if you've decided what your goals are for the day, then you need to we ask ourselves, you know, is this that I'm choosing now a part of my goals or not? Mm-hmm. You know, it moves me closer to what I want to have accomplished, what I will feel good having accomplished by the end of the day, or will it detract from and become an obstacle to my accomplishment?
I've noticed that the more conscious I am, the less I choose like something bad, because you know, it's like those email pop-ups. You know how you'll go to a website and there'll be an email pop-up, and it's and they'll have this clever, sometimes annoying thing that's like, click this if you don't want to get smarter with this PDF. Yeah. And I don't like that kind of marketing, to be honest. I think it's kind of cheesy, but it does correlate in terms of like the more I'm kind of in tune with what I actually need to be doing, when an opportunity of distraction does come up and I stop and actually think about it as like, this is a distraction. Does this add value to what I actually need to be doing?
Yeah. Then
it is really hard to choose the distraction. It is actually physically hard to be like, yes, let me distract myself right now. Like, it sounds bad.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying like don't have distractions or don't take time you need when you need to take time, or emergencies happen and we have to stop what we're doing to take care of it and it derails our plans or whatever. But it's just the more conscious you get, a lot of that other stuff really is distraction, and it is hard to pick it, you know?
So along those lines, like what I started saying a few minutes ago is a little bit abstract. It's like for about every realm of existence, there's an infant, toddler, child, and teen and adult phase, and then there's an elder phase. So the question we can ask ourselves is, am I in the child phase of this thing, this experience, this emotion? Am I in the teen phase, or am I in the adult or elder phase? And that kind of helps me anyway. I don't know, maybe this may be too abstract. You can see what you think, Devani, but it helps me recognize and understand that within myself as well as that within others. Just like that experience of Alexa, for instance, as a device, how it is that it's still a young AI, artificial intelligence, in development, and so it's very limited. It doesn't mean that it's going to stay limited, and it's the same thing for us in our journey, wherever we are in our journey.
Yeah, I look at it as sort of like whatever stage you're in. It's like there are some stages of life where we are just distracted constantly, and that might be necessary, you know, for some people. Like, you might need to experience that, and whatever that teaches you, and whatever that does for you in that amount of time or that period of time. And there are times in people's lives where it's all work, and that's that time. And then there's times where things open up, and then it's about other things. It's like about adventure, and it's about seeking experiences, and that's that time. And it's like at every stage you learn something new that you probably need to learn or want to learn. Hopefully you want to learn the things you need to learn, you know? And so I was listening to a song. It was actually a rap song the other day. It came up on SoundCloud, and the person was talking about, they were rapping about sort of like life journey and life lessons. And there was one line that really stood out to me. They were saying, life doesn't always, it was something about how like life doesn't always, the world doesn't stop. Oh gosh, it was amazing. It was a really good line, but the bottom line of what they were saying was the world will teach you the lessons you need to know, whether you want to know them or not. And it was this and this person was talking about their stage of life and development and career and blah blah blah. And the entire song was really about how it doesn't matter how many times it takes, but the world will eventually teach you the lessons you need. And the cycles you get into are necessary for your growth.
So, okay, so tying that in with the choose your thoughts concept in a way that sounds almost antithetical to that. So it's like, how do you tie that back, or do you tie that back into? Because if the world's going to teach you what you need to know no matter what, essentially, that's in a way very opposite from being a conscious creator and choosing what it is you want to learn.
Well, yes, it's sort of like you choose your thoughts and you choose your experiences, but it's sort of like the destiny versus free will thing. I think it's a mix of both, because we don't always like learning and growing in certain ways. Like there are things that everybody has to overcome regardless. And if they don't overcome them, then it's just going to create issues down the road.
It's going to come up and happen anyway.
Yeah, like for me, the big thing was like mastering my schedule and routine around things. Like resist. But regardless, that is just something I need to do. So why not just embrace it and figure it out? You know, like there are things. And I think maybe the more you choose your thoughts, the more you become aware of the things you need to learn in life.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And so I think they kind of both feed into each other.
So in that case, like if you're resisting making a schedule, then like there's a message to yourself or to ourselves in the resistance.
Right.
It's like if I'm resisting something, like what is the message? And sometimes people might decide that it means that I'm not supposed to really do this. And other times you might decide that on the other, like the quote, just on the other side of your discomfort lies your greatest opportunity for growth. So it might be there. And for you, that was definitely the case.
Oh yeah,
right?
For sure. Like there's just some practical things in life you have to deal with.
Yeah.
Whether you want to or not. And it just makes it better if you choose to deal with it.
Right, right. So yeah, so I think that this is kind of, the next that I had in here was a bit too abstract, I think, to bring up here. But it really boils down to, I'll try and bring it in this way. Okay, so the more we tune into essentially the whisper from our soul, then the more it speaks to us. And we can't do that when it's going through the static of all the distractions. So creating time and space through creating, through conscious choice, through meditation, through connecting with nature, those are all incredibly wonderful ways to remind us to touch into what we're thinking and what we really think and believe about that, and to not bite the bait. That's the term I was looking for earlier, relative to the headline of, yes, I want to click and know what are the 3 things that I should be thinking about, you know, in the cloud kind of thing. Because, you know, like, what if that has nothing to do with you? You know, what if her screen went blank? Is it because you muted her?
I'm muted.
Okay, so Alexa, stop scrolling. Right now she says, oh, sorry, Alexa, stop. I called her name, so she, tell me a superhero joke. So we just, like, at random, like, looked at the screen and we see, and now that's fun and interactive. There are times we play with her and we make that conscious choice. But if we do it as a part of just in general in our day, then that's an interruption. That's just yet another interruption. So decide what's important. Decide what you want to focus on, and then choose that. And one of the ways you do that is by setting goals. And that we're really big on setting goals with the 90-day goals journal, which we're changing the name, by the way, to planner.
Yes, 90-day goals planner.
Yeah, because that makes a lot more sense to what it is. It's actually more of a planner than an actual journal. But
and even so, whether you have a planner or whatever system you have to use, if you get really stuck, then just ask yourself, is what I'm doing, what I'm thinking about, what I'm about to do, what I'm trying to choose. When you're at those decision points, just ask yourself, would I be doing this if I am the person who is successful? Fill in the blank of what successful means to you. Would I choose to do this if I were embodying the person that I want to be in a year from now, in a month from now, next week?
Yeah, and the thing about these distractions and allowing others to choose our own thoughts is they rarely lead us to where we want to go.
I've never had a distraction lead me into something that was productive.
Right, and
at this point, I have.
It gobbles up, like they're the Pac-Man that gobble up their energy, and it's, if anyone remembers the old Pac-Man game.
Yes.
So, okay, I
Alrighty.
think that's it for now.
That's a wrap.
Okay.
So choose good thoughts.
And thanks for joining us.
Bye.
Thanks so much for joining us for the I Create Daily podcast. Please let us know what creatives you would like us to interview and what topics you would be interested in hearing more about.
And if you enjoyed this show, please leave a review on iTunes. We value your feedback. We read all the reviews, and it just helps us get the word out on the I Create Daily podcast. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much.